I want everyone to know these might be the best things going on in Transformers right now, and no one's even talking about them. And I need to say this right now, I'm not sponsored. I just like these guys that much. I'm about to gush. From a company that you've probably never heard of called Blokees, this is the new series of Transformers blind boxes called the Galaxy version. So, these guys come in boxes like this. Blind boxes, right? And then you can see they come with 10 characters you could possibly get. Optimus Prime, Jazz, Ironhide, Ratchet, Prowl, Bluestreak, Optimus Prime again, Megatron, Skywarp, Thundercracker. So, 9 characters, 10 different figures. The differences in the Optimus Prime appear to be that they're just cartoon versions. This is what the back of the box looks like, and this is the side of the box, and you can see it's Megatron. So, I found out about these guys from an Instagram ad. On Instagram, I just saw pictures of them, and I saw this Thundercracker specifically, and thought he looked gorgeous. And I wanted to just buy Thundercracker, because I thought these were little figurines. I saw they were blind boxes. I was like, okay, well, I can buy a thing of 9 boxes for just over 60 bucks. So it comes out that, maybe it's like 9 to 10 bucks per blind box, which isn't bad for blind boxes. What I didn't realize is these are model kits. When you open the box, you have 2 bags. You open the bags and you get 1, pieces for arms, armor, the general big features of the figure, and the other bag, the joints. You do not know which character you get until you open up the bags. I think that's important to mention because, sure, I lucked out. I got all 9 of the characters through 9 boxes. But as you could have seen from the back of that box, even though most of these guys are 1 out of 9, Optimus is 1 out of 12, and that Secret Optimus is 1 out of 36. And alongside that, sure, in my one big box, I got all 9 characters. But that doesn't mean necessarily at the factory that they're making sure that each box has 1 character, They give you the warning when you buy these. You're not guaranteed to get all 9. I just got really, really, really lucky. Even still, that means that I can now actually show you all of Wave 1 and talk about why I think these guys are amazing. Even though I got this set for Thundercracker, let's talk about Optimus first. The first thing you might be able to notice is, even though this is a model kit, there actually is a lot of detail here. Most of it's sculpted, but you also have tampografts for the arms, you have his yellow arrows, the yellow here on the pelvis, yellow for the lights, he has these stickers for the windows. These all came with the figure, and it looks incredible, absolutely perfect. Alongside that, we can talk about the universal articulation these figures have. You have a ball joint at the head, you have a ball joint at the shoulder with a little bit of side to side, you have a little over 90 degrees at the elbow, side to side there, you have wrist articulation, waist joint, a ball joint at the hip, a good knee, gets you slightly past the 90 again, and then you have a ball joint down here at the foot. So, some pretty articulated figures, all things considered, and again, they're basically the price of a core class, and they're also just a nice model kit. When I was building them up, I just had to keep mentioning about how nice they felt. The plastic is good and durable. You have a really satisfying snap every time you put a piece together. And even though my first attempt to build someone with Ratchet was a little bit awkward just because I didn't quite get it yet, every character I built after that all felt so logical. I adored putting these figures together. And because they're such small model kits, they're just a nice, quick little build. I was able to build all 9 of these in maybe just a little over an hour. I think it's also worth pointing out that Optimus has a few things unique to him. For one, he has an ion blaster. Most of the Autobots all come with the same kind of generic pistol weapon. Alongside that, he came with a pointer finger, something only him and Megatron came with, and he got his Energon axe that you can replace one of the hands with. To do that, you would literally just pop a hand off, like so. Boop. Energon axe on. Boop. It looks really nice. I do enjoy how that looks, and you can see even the Autobot logo is molded in. Optimus is the only character in this wave to get something like that, which, you gotta remember, Optimus Prime, he gets a little bit of extra stuff. Other than him, the only other figure to get a pointer finger is Megatron, and the only characters to get guns that aren't just the pistols are Megatron and the Seekers. Speaking of, why don't we look at the big boss next? Megatron just looks terrific. He's a little bit puffier than the other robots, which I think really conveys the fact that he's such a larger character. He comes with a blast effect. The only characters to get that are him, Ironhide, and Ratchet. It fits straight into the gun. Another thing to point out is that Megatron's articulation is a little bit hampered here in the shoulders just due to how his armor is. But overall, this is a good-looking Megatron. He has great sculpting. I love his little smirk. And even if he's not as colorful as Optimus, he does just have a great presence about him in this figure. I think it would have been nice if Megatron came with a mace, just like how Optimus came with his axe, but I can't really complain. And if they ever do a Wave 2 and want to reuse Megatron, that would be an easy accessory to put in to make it feel like you're getting a little bit more for your money. A really cool thing to mention is that the characters are actually in scale with each other despite being model kits and blind box model kits at that. Optimus and Megatron are the tallest ones, with the Seekers slightly taller than them, and the Autobot cars all being noticeably shorter. So, yeah, your scaling here is perfect. You have Optimus and Megatron looking down on everyone, with the Seekers being taller than the cars. Perfect. And if we want to take it a little bit further, if I were to bring in a character like Bluestreak, boop, we can see that he is shorter than Ratchet and Ironhide. So the scaling across all the characters is perfect. It's going the way it should, and it's incredible to me. With how cheap these figures are in terms to purchase them, how quality they are in terms of their plastic, their overall feel, the articulation, and even a thing like scaling. But since we have all these characters in here now, why don't we actually start moving to the other figures? We're going to go to our last unique mold, and then we'll get into the characters that share pieces. Aside from Megatron and Optimus, the only character in this line to not have a repaint within the wave is Jazz. He's our last unique guy. The way you can tell he's different from a character like Prowl or Bluestreak, who have some similarities to be fair, is for one, Jazz is the only one who has his wheels on his ankles as he should. Alongside that, he has wheels up there on his shoulders as he should. The chest is different, many of the details are different. Jazz is unique just as his G1 toy is unique. Now, building up this Jazz, I do like him a lot. That said, let's say that maybe you're not a fan of Jazz with the door wings. Maybe you want him to look more like the cartoon. Well, this is where it's so smart. Unlike the other Datsuns, Prowl and Bluestreak, Jazz's wings are a lot easier to pop off, and it's so you can have a G1 accurate doorless Jazz. I think he looks so good without the doors. I think I'm going to keep them off him, to be honest, because it does make him look a little bit more unique to Prowl and Bluestreak. But Jazz, able to escape being an easy repaint when any other line would have just made him a repaint of Prowl, and it makes him one of the better figures in the line, in my opinion. Speaking of Prowl, we have both of the Season 1 Datsuns. We have Prowl and Bluestreak right here in the model kit line. I assume Smokescreen's probably going to come down the line sometime. Keep in mind, we have 2 of the 3 Datsuns and 2 of the 3 Seekers, and we're missing arguably the most iconic member of both trios, Starscream for the Seekers, Smokescreen for the Datsuns. They're probably going to show up somewhere though. Hopefully this line continues on. But I do want to point this out. Even though they are using all of the same pieces, Bluestreak and Prowl look so different from each other just due to how smart they were with the colorways. They don't share any colors between them. Everything that's gray or red on Bluestreak is a completely different color on Prowl. Alongside that, you do have hand options with these figures. Each of these figures come with a closed fist and a splayed open hand. So if you want, you can do like I did and give them mirrored hands. So give one the splayed hand on one side and one the grabby hand on the other. You can also use the doors to make them a little bit more distinct. So maybe Prowl's door wings are a little bit more up and Bluestreak's door wings are a little bit more down and relaxed. So you can personalize these guys to a certain extent, which I think just makes them even better. Now, I will say, out of all the kits here, I do still really like the Datsuns. But I think that they are slightly below the others for me just because they're so similar to Jazz, and I do think Jazz overall was a better build. That said, why don't we look at the other duo of Autobot cars? You couldn't do a line like this without Optimus Prime's best friends. Ratchet and Ironhide look terrific. And because of how different their color layouts and colors used are, they look like different figures. but they took it to an extra level. So they both come with this blast effect, right? So you can use that to help distinguish, but also they changed the helmets and the torsos. Don't get me wrong, that is G1 accurate. They should look different. However, not only does that give each character a far more unique silhouette for these figures, it's also a thing where I keep going back to this. If this were a Hasbro blind box line, or a blind box line from many people, they totally would have just chosen one helmet or made an amalgamation of the two and given them to both so that you could save money. But then you even have different, paint decisions. Ironhide has that cracked windshield while they gave Ratchet a heartbeat monitor. It looks so good. And it's another reason why I'm just absolutely adoring these Blokees figures, is they just kept changing things where they could. You can look and see they even gave Ironhide a unique pelvis piece just to get his, whatever you want to call his crotch triangle incorporated. The final duo I'll talk about are Skywarp and Thundercracker. Thundercracker is the reason I even wanted to start collecting these guys. I saw how he looked on Instagram and thought he looked perfect. And if I got Thundercracker, I wanted Skywarp, because I'm at a point in my life where I just want duos of these guys as much as I can get them. That said, my big problem here is that I think that in their attempts to make Skywarp more distinct from Thundercracker, they took some colors away. Skywarp really should have a silver chest, like Thundercracker does, but they went with a more just all black look. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they didn't make him just purple like Hasbro usually does, but I do think that extra his silver would really have helped. Even still, I think both of these guys look incredible. They're taller than most of the others, and they have so much fun uniqueness to them because of their null rays and their wing packs. That said, the wings do not move, unlike the door wings on the Datsuns. So with all this gushing, how would I actually rank these figures? Keep in mind, they are blind boxes, so I don't know how easy it would be to track down singular figures or characters, but which ones do I think stand out above the others? Well, I can answer that right now. The bottom of the heap for me would be Prowl. Still a really, really nice figure and a great build with great options with the missile launchers and the wings. That said, he's in a wave with two other model kits that all kind of build and look similar to him, and I think he has the least interesting deco. That said, I would still highly recommend Prowl. I think this is a very good Prowl model kit. He's just not that interesting compared to some of the other model kits in this wave. At number 8 would be Ironhide. I think an issue I have is that for all the doubles, one of them came out so well that I think the other one, no matter how good it was, just looks a little bit more dull by comparison. And next up is one of the unique builds with Megatron. Megatron's a great project. I had so much fun putting him together, but as nice as this figure is, I'm just not a big fan of G1 Megatron's design. I think it's really sloppy and bloated. I think that this was a really good translation of that design. It's just not my favorite Megatron. Yes, above Megatron is where I would put Blue Streak. I think his colors pop so much more. Those hits of red do a lot of good. And even though Jazz and Prowl are both very similar to him, Blue Streak's color scheme alone helps him stand out. If Skywarp had a silver chest, he would have been in my top 3. Even still, he made it to the 5th spot. He basically made it into the top half. I just think that this figure looks a little bit dull when it didn't need to, but still, I think the Seeker build is the best build. I think that Thundercracker and Skywarp are the best 2 figures to get from this line if you can just get one duo. I just wish Skywarp had a little bit more going on his own. Next up just had to be Optimus Prime. He made it onto the Mount Rushmore, not quite top 3, and that's just because we have so many good Optimus Primes, especially nowadays, but this is still a spectacular one. He comes with more accessories than any other figure, he's one of the largest, he's a unique build, and I do think that, objectively, he is better than my personal top 3. It's just, again, the other 3 are figures or characters we don't get anywhere near as much as we get in Optimus Prime. Breaking in top 3, we have Jazz. And the reason I like him so much is he's really shown me just how much personality these figures could have. When I first started building these, the first 2 I built were Ratchet and then Ironhide. And even though they're great, they're a little bit blocky. You have Jazz here, and you really get to see just how much personality you can get through this articulation. So, Jazz, I do think, is the best of these Autobot cars. I do think that he's better than Blue Streak and Prowl. I think it really is, though, just my personal enjoyment of how this one built. that makes me really propel him over the other two, because I do think that Blue Streak does look just a touch better. And number 2 is Ratchet. I think Ratchet just looks incredible. I do think that both the Vans have such a fun build and such a good look. They pose incredibly well, have so much personality to them. I just personally think Ratchet looks better between him and Ironhide, though I could definitely see someone who would prefer Ironhide just due to being a little bit more varied in color layout. And that leaves a pretty obvious number 1, doesn't it? I bought this entire wave because I wanted Thundercracker. When I was unboxing them and got to my final 2 boxes and still didn't have him, I actually started to get really worried. And then when I actually got Thundercracker, I lost my mind. He is probably my favorite Transformer character. He's up there with Ratchet and RC and Soundwave. He's my favorite figure, or my favorite character to get in toy form. He's one of my favorite color schemes on a Transformer. And I do think that this is the best Blokees, at least from this first wave. I think his build is the most interesting. I think his overall look is the most intriguing. And I love his colors so much. If there's only one Blokees figure, I'd say try to track this one down if you could. It would be Thundercracker. Though keep in mind, I do think that all of these figures were so much fun to build up. Bringing our top 3 back in here, again, I really have to say I love these figures. I think Blokees have made an amazing product, and I want to collect more. If you can, try to track these guys down. They're going for really cheap right now. They're on the Blokees website. That's Blokees. Not sponsored. Again, I know that I have been just absolutely fawning over this company this entire video. It's just because they've made a really, really, really nice set of toys. And I think that they are incredible. I want to see more. I want to see so much more from this company.